on this computer. Recording in progress. All right. So let's start out with Recovered on Purpose. Describe what that program is and what its message is for those who might not be familiar with it.
Yeah, the mission statement is to equip and empower addicts in recovery to share their stories powerfully, to encourage and help addicts recover, and to share our stories in the school system to deter the future generations from going down the path of addiction. Basically, I train, lead, and coach addicts in recovery how to write books, share their stories on podcasts, speak, do social media accounts, and basically all the ways that we're able to reach more people with the state of the internet these days, so that we can reach the addicts that aren't hearing the messages just by walking into a 12-step fellowship.
Awesome. And so tell us a little bit about the story that led to the founding of Recovered on Purpose in, what was it, 2019?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, up there in Montana in 2015, I was found unresponsive from an overdose with no breath, no pulse by the police in Laurel. And I still suffered 2 years after that, exactly 2 years actually after that event, and found myself homeless. I was actually 86th from the Montana mission in Billings.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was like, yeah, I was super homeless. And, you know, I couldn't find recovery. I was trying, I continued to try. When I was talking to people out there, I was consistently like talking about, we need to find recovery and da 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 and all this stuff and super excited, but I couldn't find it. And then it got to a point where I was 148 pounds. I'm 215 right now. And I was just completely broken. And I ended up finding recovery on November 6, 2017. I had some pretty intense spiritual experiences, met Jesus face to face at IHOP. And, I did the 12 steps as if my life depended on it. And after day 25, after I did my first ever fifth step, the obsession to drink and use completely left me. I don't have cravings for it. It doesn't cross my mind to use, none of that, since day 26 of sobriety. And then I
Interesting.
went, what's that?
Oh, is it very interesting?
Yeah.
Never once, huh? Since day 26.
So I've had thoughts,
Thoughts.
but they are very different than the obsession that I used to have about drugs and alcohol. Because from the time I was 12 until this time in recovery, every single day, I was thinking about how I was going to get high, what I was going to use, how long I was going to be sober this time if I had a couple days at that point. But now the thoughts that I've had in my recovery since that day, it's just like, man, I remember it would be real nice to shoot up heroin right now so everything would go away. But it's not the thought of, okay, how am I going to get some heroin and use it to where nobody's going to know?
Uh,
And, all these thoughts about how I'm going to do it is just like a fleeting thought. There's no cravings for it anymore.
that
Um,
makes sense.
yeah. And then 2019, I came on as chief marketing officer of a company and was able to build that to a very successful company with 23 employees. We were in 3 states, Montana being one of them. And I was able to, start investing in myself in a lot of different ways with coaching and mentoring and conferences and courses and all this stuff. And I went to this conference in September of 2019, and I was in the crowd. There was a worship band playing on the stage, and I went out there on a whim completely alone, and I heard this voice speak to me, just like really soft whisper in my heart, and it said, "Your new company's called Recovered on Purpose." And I like look up and I was like, that's good. I pulled out my phone right there and on the conference floor, and pulled up the Secretary of State, made sure it was available. I got the domain name right there, had no idea what it was going to be. And then on the next day of the conference, I was in the crowd and someone came up on stage and started talking about self-publishing a book. And I'm sitting there and I'm like rigorously taking notes. And I'm like, I want to do this. I've always wanted to write a book and all this stuff. And that same voice told me, if you publish your book for your 2 years clean and sober, you're going to inspire so many others to do the same.
Yeah.
And I heard it and I was like, my 2 years clean and sober, that's in 5 weeks. And I was like, how am I going to do that? So I go home,
Oh,
I tell my partners, like, I can't, I'm going to be off the grid for the next few weeks. I'm working on something, put my phone away, and I sat down and I focused. And I knew when I sat down that I wasn't going to be able just to sit down and write a book and make it into what I wanted it to be. So for the first couple days, what I did was I dumped out all of my life experiences on my whiteboard, and I just started like getting everything out, writing them really short, just to get the name of them out. And then I figured out the message that I wanted my book to share, which was the reality of the spiritual realm and recovery is possible. So I took the stories of my life that pointed to that message, and I put them into a mind map that went chronologically about my, addiction and recovery journey. And then I sat down and I wrote and published From Chains to Saved in those 5 weeks. And it became a #1 bestseller. Sold just about 5,000 copies and given away the same amount. And what I didn't realize at the time was that I was actually creating a blueprint for anybody in recovery to put their story into and be able to share their story in a way that's going to impact addicts out there. Because after I published that book, I started getting emails and messages and people reaching out to me saying, how my book helped them and these different things. And then on December 5th, exactly 30 days after publishing the book, I was at a conference in San Diego, and a man I'd never met before walked up to me in the back of the conference with a copy of my book, handed it to me, and he said, "Bro, your book changed my life. I have 3 weeks clean. Will you sign it for me?" And his name's Israel, and he's still clean to this day. After that experience, I started coaching addicts and alcoholics in recovery how to write books. We started publishing books. My first student, Brittany Priestley, published her book, Mommy Drunkest, and the same DA that the same DA that prosecuted her 4 times in her addiction bought a giant box of her books and gives her book to women that he's prosecuting that are in the same situation that she was in.
Wow.
So the idea is that there's all different ways for us to share our stories now. We can't be anonymous anymore. It's not working. And the idea of Recovered on Purpose is I'm giving the addiction recovery community all of the personal development tools, all of the skills and everything they need in order to become a leader within this community that's sharing their story, their recovery journey, because not everybody meets Jesus at IHOP and then does the 12 steps in 25 days. Not everybody's able to do that. And what I've found is the more recovery stories that are being told, especially with different pathways to recovery, the more people are actually able to find recovery. And when you're constantly looking forward to something, when you have this purpose in your life, in recovery, you're not relapsing. If you're on a podcast in 2 weeks, you're speaking at a school in a month, and you have a TEDx talk coming up in October, you don't have time to even think about relapsing. You've got too much purpose, too many things going on in your life that you have to show up for. So Recovered on Purpose is here to help addicts find recovery and help addicts in recovery stay recovered by living on mission and purpose.
Fantastic. I just think it's so cool that I have a friend that has a best-selling book. Let's see. So
I'm about 45,000 words in on my new book that I'm going to release this year.
Oh, right on. I'll look forward to it.
Don't write it in the article, but it's called Smash Relapse: Living a Purpose-Filled Life in Your Recovery.
I like it. So when TEDx reached out to you, I don't know, what was that process like getting to do the TED Talk? Was it kind of just a one and done phone call where they said, "Do you want to do it?" You said yes, and that's it? Or was there more of a process to it?
There's definitely a process. There's an application process. I've been in relationship with some of the founders of TEDx Billings for a while and was in communication with them. And I had to submit a really legit proposal saying what I'm going to do, because there was quite a few people that wanted to do TEDx talks about addiction and recovery. So there's definitely a process. I think it took 6 or 8 weeks after submitting the proposal to hear that I was one of the ones selected. But the entire TEDx Billings team is absolutely incredible. You know, we're getting email updates with everything. You know, when we had the event for the announcement on the media for it, you know, we were completely prepped and ready for it. And everybody is just all about how we're going to serve the Billings community and bring ideas out of the Billings community that's going to serve the world.
Well, that's good because we could really use some ideas worth sharing
Amen.
because whew, sometimes I'm overwhelmed, I'll say, by some of the things that go on here. But I guess that's anywhere that you live. If you live there long enough, you start to go, what's happening?
Yeah.
But anywho, so can't read my own handwriting. So the moment that you've got approved, it was all finalized. They said you're doing a TED talk on addiction and recovery. What was that moment like for you?
You know, I've had a picture of a TEDx stage on my vision board since 2019. And so it was a dream come true, a vision come true, because, you know, I want to serve so badly with my life. And I believe the idea that I'm sharing is going to help millions of people with the largest crisis that's ever hit America. I mean, it's now the #1 leading cause of death for American men aged 17 to 44.
Oh,
And
really?
there's nothing, yes, since 2021, I believe, is when the CDC announced that.
Wow.
And the overdose rate is increasing at 15% year over year. There was over 120,000 last year and about 107 the year before that. And, you know, there's a lot of really well-intentioned people working in this industry. And what I see lacking is something new, something that fits the times, something that includes everybody. So it's not, you know, this fellowship versus this fellowship, them against treatment, and then everybody's saying that, you know, medically assisted treatment isn't recovery. Instead of all that stuff going on, something new has to come up from this community, just like Bill and Bob, who founded the 12-step movement. It came from inside the addict and alcoholic community that actually made the difference that saved millions of lives. And I believe that that's what we're on the cusp of creating.
Very cool. Well, is there anything else that we haven't covered as far as the TED Talk or anything like that that you'd like to add or that readers should know?
Yeah, you know, I met all of the speakers and presenters except for one, I believe, that's doing a musical presentation, and every TEDx speaker is bringing the heat this year.
Heck
So,
yeah.
and I know that there's only going to be like 700 tickets available, and it's for sure going to sell out. So if you want to come, make sure you're following the TEDx Billings Facebook page and their Instagram, and you are ready to click the link when they actually launch the tickets.
Oh, okay. Do we know how much they're going to cost yet?
I have no idea, honestly.
Oh,
I think that when they launch, they'll have an early bird, and then they'll go up, and then they'll go up until they're sold out, which, you
oh
know,
yeah, that's usually how that works, huh?
I'm bringing dozens of people from out of state, so
Yeah.
y'all better get your tickets quick.
Edition of the paper, so it would be next Friday.
Cool. Cool. Is
Yeah.
it online and a paper edition?
Yep.
Just paper edition?
Yeah, and I can send you a PDF copy when it comes out.
Cool. Be awesome. I'll share that out.
Right on. Well, it was good to see you.
Awesome.
Good to hear from you.
You too. You too,
Thank
brother.
you.
I'm proud of you. Keep going. And, you know, I'll see you soon. You better be at the TED Talk.
All right. I'll make sure I get my early bird ticket.
Amen. All right, buddy.
All right. See you
Thank
later.
you.
Bye.